and let us all do we can to build a better future. That are talking about Israel and how it's yet to produce evidence of the tunnels. Now, I know various independent media channels have been covering this story, but I think it's important to look at how even corporate media is talking about it. It's showing up not only on the BBC, but MSNBC as well. And I want to give a huge shout out to Case Study QB for finding this clip. And I want to play it for all of you so that even you yourselves can see it in its full entirety. So let's play it.
Tonight, airstrikes continue throughout the Gaza Strip, which has now lost all cell phone and internet connectivity under complete blackout due to a lack of fuel. It comes as Israeli troops spent a second day searching Gaza's main Al-Shifa hospital. Despite claims by the U.S. and Israeli governments, the search thus far has failed to produce evidence of a Hamas command headquarters operating on hospital grounds. Today, NBC's Raf Sanchez filed this report.
This, Israel says, is the proof it's been searching for, releasing video today of what it claims is a Hamas tunnel shaft.
Now, that is a very bold statement to make, because I want to just play just a few short seconds of this video from the BBC. I will also be playing it after the Case Study QB video, but here, all of you need to see this as well, so let's play it.
Israel described the Al-Shifa hospital as the main headquarters for Hamas's terrorist activity. This IDF animation, posted in late October, claims to represent a Hamas tunnel system underneath.
Now, this is a CGI imagination, by the IDF to show a potential underground facility underneath the hospital. This is nothing but speculation. This is just a rendering. Okay, because I want to go back to this video from Case Study QB. Mind you, again, they're saying that this is what's underneath the hospital. Let's listen to this video from Case Study QB.
On the grounds of Al-Shifa, Gaza's largest hospital. NBC News cannot independently verify that claim, but we can confirm this opening is located near the hospital.
There is an AK-47.
Both Israel and the U.S. say Hamas operates a command center below Al-Shifa, but the raid at first turned up only sparse signs of militants. Israel says there'll be more evidence to come.
Joining me now.
Now, more evidence to come. Could that mean more things being planted? Or as Israel secures more and more of Gaza and they have their forces around the hospital, or what remain of the hospital, could, oh, surprise, surprise, look what we found here. More guns, more maps. Here's a calendar with people's names on it. Yes, that's a thing that happened. It said it was a list of people. It turned out to be a calendar.
Now, as someone who knows that hospital well, throughout the years, MSNBC's Ayman Mohideen has reported extensively on Gaza, including from inside Al-Shifa Hospital during previous conflicts. Ayman, you're always a wealth of information for this, and I'm so grateful for your perspective.
Thank you for having me.
When you hear about the reporting from Al-Shifa Hospital, what's your sort of assessment about what's going on here?
Well, the first thing I think of is back in 2008 when I was based in the Gaza Strip, and I would go to the Shifa Hospital to report frequently on all kinds of stories. These allegations that the Israelis have been making literally for 15 years. You can go back to 2008 and see Israeli officials making the same statements that Al-Shifa Hospital was being used by Hamas as a command and control center. Sometimes they would call it the headquarters. They would say that's where the prime minister at the time would be hiding. And all I could tell you is based on my reporting there for years. I've been there hundreds of times, walked around all.
Now, I'm surprised that even this was allowed to air on BSDNC of all places. I am surprised that this is even being reported on MSNBC. But it is important to note that a lot of news stations, big media outlets have been to that hospital. None of them ever saw that. So Israel's a little bit of a quandary right now. Do you have proof, evidence? What are you talking about? So many organizations, humanitarian groups, news agencies have been to that hospital, which Israel's now bombed. And oh, wow, look what we found here. Guns, lots of guns. Really? That's your evidence. At least they put more effort into than weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Remember that disaster?
all of the complex of Al-Shifa Hospital. Never once had anyone interfere with our reporting, telling us you can't go here, you can't access that. That's one. Two, I think it's important for viewers to understand that a lot of the doctors who work at Al-Shifa Hospital are foreign doctors, meaning they're volunteer doctors. They come from the UK, they come from Sweden, some have come from the United States. And many of those doctors as well, we hear the language sometimes that the doctors and the hospitals are run and controlled by Hamas. But the truth is these doctors are Americans, Europeans, certainly no allegiance to Hamas whatsoever. And they have spoken openly about what they have seen and how they were never denied any access to anywhere in the hospital grounds for them to be able to go and see for themselves. That's not to say it's not true. I'm just saying it's been 15 years of these allegations, hundreds of reporters who have passed through those hallways, hundreds of doctors, including local and foreign doctors who have come through there, and never substantiated by anybody outside of the Israelis and now the Americans.
The president was asked point blank about the intelligence he had that the Al-Shifa Hospital was a Hamas headquarters. He said clearly in a press conference yesterday, Hamas does have headquarters weapons material below this hospital. And I
remember what was said earlier: foreign doctors, foreign nationals, news agencies from throughout the world have been to this hospital. And now, out of the blue, there's a secret base like this there? And the administration is just saying that that is the proof that they need? This is a CGI rendering, an imagination. This is something you would see out of a James Bond movie or Mission Impossible, something like that, or even in a video game. Reality says something different. Plus, look at the time, effort, and energy to maintain something like this. You know, there's a lot of lights down there. There's a lot of machinery, too. Obviously, you need to have air and water down there, you know, controlling the temperature and so much more, because the air could get a little stuffy down there, right? But, oh, wait, hold on. Wait a minute. My brain just remembered something. Fuel, water, electricity are controlled by Israel in regards to what goes into Gaza. And yes, I could hear people saying, well, what if it's self-sufficient? Yeah, it's self-sufficient. We know about that, right? But there's even limitations to that technology, too, in order to maintain a James Bond-style center underneath a hospital where it looks like there's so many tunnels that are twisting and turning all over the place. They're showing up everywhere, Charlie.
About the intelligence he had that the Al-Shifa Hospital was a Hamas headquarters. He said clearly in a press conference yesterday, Hamas does have headquarters weapons material below this hospital, and I suspect others. The U.S. is very out front on this. Yeah. And it feels like a lot hangs on the IDF's ability to show that this, in fact, was a Hamas headquarters. Right. This feels like an incredibly weighted moment for all of this, and I wonder what you make of Biden's strategy thus far.
So again, I would say as a journalist, where is the evidence? Where is the...
Don't you love it? I mean, occasionally corporate media gets it right. They do. Occasionally. Just occasionally they get it right. Occasionally. Not often. But where is the proof? Just so y'all can hear that again.
The IDF's ability to show that this, in fact, was a Hamas headquarters. Right. This feels like an incredibly weighted moment for all of this, and I wonder what you make of Biden's strategy thus far. So
again, I would say as a journalist, where is the evidence? Where is the intelligence? I'm old enough to have remembered 2003 and the whole weapons of mass destruction debacle in Iraq. So I err on the side of caution when it comes to governments and intelligence officials saying, here's the proof and we're going to war for this proof. Again, it's not to say that it's not true. It's just simply to say we would need to see what that evidence is. And Israel would have to make a compelling case. And they have now been in control.
Just want to pull up this video up here again one more time. You know, with all of these tunnels here, I really have to wonder, where's the bathroom at? You know, I mean, there's so much detail on here. Hey, the IDF that made this, right? In the intelligence service, you know, all that stuff. When you make such a detailed Lazarus pit underneath the hospital in Gaza, you know, people are going to ask questions like, well, how come the lights are on? How come they got running water? Where does their poo go? You know, do they have a cafeteria? Do they have an arcade? as well, because after all, I mean, if they're going to have like this big James Bond villain center, the regular soldiers need to have some R&R, right? Right? Yes? No? Maybe?
Of Al Shifa Hospital for the better part of 48 hours, going on to 72 hours tomorrow. And what we have seen so far raises a lot of questions as to how they have described it. So again, they described it as a Hamas headquarters or command and control. The language has shifted a little bit from command and control to a, as Admiral Kerber said earlier, a node, a command and control node, which I'm not sure what that distinction is, but it just seems like it's a slightly downgraded description of what's inside. And what we're seeing also really raises questions on what Israel itself has described as its intelligence failure on October 7th. So there's just a lot of questions that I think as
I'm so glad that I can copy this video, and I encourage all of you to follow KStudyQB and download this video, protect it, save it, because he said something. Israel's intelligence failure. I mean, seriously, Gaza is an open-air prison. You got these big concrete walls, these watchtowers, barbed wire fences, security cameras, surveillance drones, helicopters, airplanes. How and not to mention an intelligence service too. How come you didn't see that haymaker coming on October 7th? How come you didn't see those gliders coming in? Like, how did you not see it coming? Now, look, hey, we've all seen our fair share of people on social media get a sucker punch. We've seen people get a sucker punch before, but that happens. But when you are at a location and some crazy person says, "I'm going to use this fist and I'm going to punch it at you," and you don't dodge, something tells me that you want to get punched. It doesn't add up. It's a little suspicious. And anything that was, negatively being said about Netanyahu in Israel for about domestic issues, somehow, poof, disappeared. It's suspicious.
As its intelligence failure on October 7th. So there's just a lot of questions that I think as journalists, I would be looking at with a more cautious eye before running into the conclusion that the Israelis and the Americans are saying.
Well, and it's also coming as the Biden administration tries to kind of calibrate its response more broadly to Israel in as this war progresses, right? I mean, you have John Kirby with our colleague Chris Hayes today saying it's impossible for Israel to totally eliminate Hamas. You have Biden saying at once, full support of Israel, but also saying the only ultimate answer here is a two-state solution, which is not something that's Netanyahu's proposed lately.
His own cabinet ministers are openly against that. Let's just be very clear about that. I mean, they are openly against a two-state solution. They're saying that privately. They're saying that publicly. The prime minister himself, although he has in the past committed to a two-state solution, it is not something that this Israeli government is prepared to talk about anytime soon. We've heard this from a lot of Israeli officials that the two-state solution is not a feasible option for a variety of reasons, but certainly not going to be one that's going to be on the horizon anytime soon after everything that has happened here.
It is a remarkably complicated moment as Gaza is plunged into a humanitarian nightmare.
Yes, and here's what the administration is saying, especially in regards to the State Department. Here, let me pull up this video for all you lovely people to witness as well.
I have a question about the Al-Shifa hospital. You talked about the host of weapons, but in the images that the IDF shared yesterday, we're seeing rifles that are in number less than 10, say a couple Qurans, discs, a laptop. Did you really look at the images and say that this is a proper headquarters, or are you hoping to see more?
Yes, because I think a lot of them were hoping for that James Bond style facility. In order to build something like that, you need resources, you need money, you need manpower. And, I get it. Sometimes things can be built in secret, in quiet. I get it. But, I don't know. All those foreign doctors, humanitarian groups, and news agencies have been there. You think they would have heard something, or some guy just walk out all dusty and covered. Man, hey, I got to get out of there. That place smells. And he just looks shocked at everyone else as he's covered in dirt. And it says, disregard the secret tunnel where we have our nefarious plans at. At this point, we got to come down to the conclusion that a hospital was blown up and destroyed out of pure malice and out of pure stupidity, or hoping that people are stupid and buy it hook, line, and sinker. Everyone will be like, oh, yeah, there's a tunnel underneath the hospital. There's secret tunnels under the refugee centers. There's a whole bunch of tunnels underneath all of Gaza. How come nobody noticed it? What? What? Are you serious? I'm not saying that people aren't, aren't creative, but to build something of that magnitude that is the cause for all this unwanted destruction. Okay, you guys show me the proof. Otherwise, Israel, you're revealing yourself to the world, and everyone's seeing it, as a country that is systematically killing women and children and the elderly. You're laying the foundations for the next war to come, and you've bombed refugee centers and hospitals for no reason whatsoever because some spooky evil person was there, or some James Bond villain base was there. Okay.
Again, I didn't know that there was a sort of acceptable threshold level of rifles to be held in hospitals. I mean, I'll just say, look, I'm from Texas. Even in Texas, we don't keep assault rifles in hospitals. That does not.
Yes, the State Department guy is going to start getting a little triggered here. He's more upset that facts and information are being presented to him. He's like, well, hey, listen, they still have rifles there. That's not good. Really? Are you sure? Because it kind of looks like they might have been planted there.
It is true. It is true. I looked at that. That's not. I'm surprised when I hear people saying, "Oh, there were only 10 rifles in this room." It's a hospital. It's a hospital. There shouldn't be any assault rifles. Hold on. There shouldn't be any assault rifles at a hospital.
There shouldn't be any assault rifles at the hospital. So let's go to the BBC. Got to save the best for last. Let's check out this James Bond villain base. CGI created by the IDF.
Headquarters for Hamas's terrorist activity. This IDF animation post.
This looks like an opening for a video game. Agent 7. You must infiltrate this hospital and destroy the secret base underneath it. There's elite terrorist special forces there. They have weapons and heavy machine guns. They got secret ninjas and dogs that bark loud. And when they bark loud, they shoot bees out of their mouth. You must be careful.
In late October, claims to represent a Hamas tunnel system underneath the hospital. But having been inside Al-Shifa since early Wednesday, Israel's yet to produce evidence of the tunnels. It has
evidence. Here's the real truth. A hospital is blown up for no reason. Just because.
Allowed the BBC and Fox News to film at the hospital, though only locations of Israel's choice.
This is what they found.
Israel also released its own 7-minute video, which BBC Verify has analyzed. A watch visible in that video suggests it was filmed a few hours before the BBC arrived. And this IDF video...
Come on, if you're going to do a lie, put more effort into it, okay? Come on. Seriously. Even the people who put together the Bigfoot hoax video or the Loch Ness Monster hoax video put more effort into it. And those lies were able to sustain themselves for quite some time.
Was posted, then deleted, then reposted.
Also, if you're going to tell a lie, don't delete the video and then re-upload. That's like amateur YouTube hour, okay? That's like some influencer being exposed. IDF. Are you on par with an Instagram model? Huh? One of those influencers now?
This time without a section referring to an Israeli soldier who'd been held hostage.
I don't know when this was used the last time.
Also in the video, we see a room with an MRI machine.
And if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you'll be able to see is military equipment.
The BBC was shown the same room. And what we see in the two videos doesn't precisely match. For example, there's one gun in the IDF video, 2 by the time of the BBC footage. Israel has told BBC Verify this is because more weaponry and terrorist assets were discovered throughout the day.
And as always, an AK-47.
You know, when we see law officers, police officers, detectives, go over a crime scene, the one thing they don't do is contaminate the scene, right? Because they have to, take photos, use it for evidence, because obviously, you need to show evidence, your own work. If you're trying to show the world that there's some sort of secret James Bond tunnel base underneath the hospital, maybe don't touch things, maybe don't give counter, photos that counteract each other, because then people are going to start asking questions of how come this one looks different? How come this is happening here? And then eventually more people are saying, are you bullshitting us? Because it looks like you're bullshitting us.
Israel also says its video is a single shot with no edits. But this appears to be an edit. We don't know the reasons for that edit, nor how significant it is. The IDF, though, says suggestions it's manipulating the media are incorrect. The IDF video also shows military equipment in other locations, though we can't verify how it came to be there. And what we see in this IDF video doesn't equate to Israel's description of Al-Shifa as an operational command center for Hamas. The US is using a different phrase, saying Al-Shifa was used as a command and control node. That implies a much smaller facility. Israel is adamant this hospital was a command center, but for now, at least, it's either not found supporting evidence or it's not sharing it. Back to you.
Or it was all a lie. I don't know. I'm going with option 3. Hold on. Let's just listen to that again one more time. I'll have democracy in the chat. Let's have some of you guys just weigh in. Let's listen to this. Option 1 is...
That implies a much smaller facility. Israel is adamant this hospital was a command center, but for now, at least, it's either not found supporting evidence.
Found not supporting evidence, option 1, right? You know, maybe there could have been a node there or something like that.
Or it's not sharing it.
Maybe they're being secretive about it because maybe it's a bigger maze than we ever do. Option 2 or option 3, it was a lie. For some reason, I think I'm going to see a lot of 3s in the chat. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there because things aren't adding up. No, they don't add up. They don't make any sense whatsoever. But I have to say, whoever put together that wonderful tunnel, that CGI rendition, you know, whatever that's underneath the hospital, you have the beginnings of a career for video game design, you know, or either that, maybe if Hollywood gets its act together, hey, they could hire you and pay you pennies to make more CGI renderings and more CGI secret bases for the next defunct Marvel movie that will go bankrupt. What we're witnessing here is lies taking place. Lying liars who like to lie. And a hospital is blown up for no reason. All what this has done is lay down further groundwork for people now to once again put pressure on our politicians to call for a ceasefire. Something has to be done. So many lives lost. Those hospitals are running out of fuel. What, you know what? Better yet, I stand corrected. They're already out. Water, resources, aid, gone. And the first video already, what? The lack of the inability to get cell phone signal or internet signal out there now. I mean, now it's radio silent, completely silent in Gaza as the bombs continue to drop. A ceasefire must take place. Enough. Enough. Things are not adding up, and people have questions because a lie is being presented before us.